Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next edition of STATURDAY Chat Live here on February 17th, 2024. It is a snowy day where I am at here in Ohio, but it is gorgeous outside. Cold, but gorgeous. I hope you are well. So, I'm going to do a few channel updates and then kind of open it up to whatever you want to talk about, and we'll go from there. So, first, if you are new to the stream, this is the way this works. I usually go 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how good the conversation is and what it is you want to talk about. And we kind of see where it goes. I don't run it long just to keep it going. So if we run out of stuff to talk about, I'll just go ahead and stop. That's kind of the way it works. I also love to know where you all are watching from. It lets me know sort of where in the world you are obviously watching from and how far the reach of the channel is and all that kind of cool stuff. And it gives me ideas on places to go someday. So I'm planning my next trip, probably Portugal or Spain. We'll see. But I always look forward to like going places that you all recommend or where you're from, and exploring the world that way. So yeah, let me know where you're watching from, and please say at least hello in the chat, and I will do my best to respond to whatever questions or comments you may have. So some channel updates, and we'll get into some news and whatever else you want to talk about. So please fill up that chat so we have stuff to discuss. Some channel updates. So you've probably noticed that I have not been live or have new videos for a few weeks or so, and that's because unfortunately my grandmother passed away on January 24th. So she passed away at the end of January, which of course is sad and traumatic and everything. Wasn't unexpected. She had been ill for a while, but obviously it takes a toll on our family, and we had her services and funeral and stuff in the time after that. So the reason I've been gone is largely dealing with my grandmother's passing, and I'm trying to get back into the groove of everything, to get making some new stuff. The next thing I release on the channel is going to be a little bit different. So before my grandmother passed away, I had written, it's basically a video essay, honestly. It didn't start out like that, but the more I wrote it and the more I wrote, the more I wrote, it ended up being a video essay on different aspects of AI and machine learning, that how I see it impacting different things. And as I got into it, I just kept having ideas, and it basically turned into a video essay. So we'll need to record. It's already written. I just need to record it and edit it and stuff like that, and then get back into sort of the more nuts and bolts of the playlist I'm working on with machine learning and stuff. So I have written new content. I do have new content planned, but life sometimes gets in the way, and you just have to adapt and adjust, and that's what I've sort of been doing. So I never, a lot of people are quitting. I won't say a lot of people, but you've probably noticed that a lot of big YouTubers have been quitting YouTube recently, and I completely understand sort of where they're coming from. As those of you on YouTube have probably noticed, YouTube is changing, and that's because YouTube isn't really going to be YouTube anymore. YouTube is trying to be a streaming service, so it can compete with other streaming services. Therefore, the algorithm changes to behave more like a traditional streaming service than YouTube's original philosophy of being YouTube, just YouTube. Now, of course, that's just their business model, right? They are a corporation that answers to their shareholders, and they need to do what they need to do to increase revenues and ultimately profits. And the way they see doing that is creating a streaming service out of YouTube instead of just a fun video site where people can upload goofy videos or whatever else. It's also the case that the production value in videos is easier now because of the tools that are available, so it can do that. There are many shows and things on YouTube that I watch that are just as good or not better than things I watch on traditional streaming services. And maybe you would agree with that. So YouTube is changing. I say that because I'm not quitting YouTube. However, it's the lowest on my priority list because YouTube no longer, like for me, the channel is sort of flattened out. I do get new subscribers, but not nearly as many as I used to. and I don't hardly make any money on it. So I have to do the things that actually pay the bills first. And the reality is that's not YouTube because of the way it's changed. And, I'd have a career. That's my first priority, obviously. I have another side job that actually pays me a certain amount per hour to do work that's guaranteed. And YouTube, I might make some money, I might not. And it's a lot of work. So I'm not quitting YouTube or anything like that, but it is sort of the lowest priority in terms of the time, just because the juice isn't worth the squeeze like it used to be. But I'm not quitting or anything. But that's just the nature of the beast. So I will have new content out, but it comes out whenever I have time to do it, write it, edit it, and so on and so forth. That's just the reality. So look out for this. So keep looking for new content as it's released. Um, but it's a bit irregular because I do it when I have time, to do it. But I will keep doing it. So, Gopesh, hi, how you doing? It's good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate you saying hello in the chat. Very kind of you. Yeah, please, say hello in the chat. Let me know where you're watching from, and put any comments or questions or things you want to talk about related to statistics, machine learning, AI, whatever. If I can't answer it, I will tell you. If I don't have the knowledge, I'll tell you. But sometimes I can get back to you later, either on LinkedIn, or that's probably the best place is LinkedIn to get a hold of me, or my website, which I can show you. So, yeah, so new content coming out. I can't tell you exactly when it will be. That's just the reality. Other channel update is I'm not exactly sure how much longer the live streams will be going. So like channels like mine, like the channels themselves, the live streams aren't getting pushed as much either. So the number of people that attend and or watch the live streams that I do has decreased in parallel with the way the channel goes. And I'm not sure if it's all that useful to people, to have the live streams, because if we're not talking about anything, then what's the point? So I don't know exactly how much longer the live streams will go. Plus the software I use called StreamYard is almost $500 a year. That's very expensive, especially at a time when YouTube revenue is decreasing. So if your revenue goes down, you have to adjust the costs, and StreamYard is extremely expensive. Or I might learn how to use OBS. So I cannot guarantee, or I do not know how much longer the live stream will go. I will look into that, but if I do it, it will have to be using like OBS or something lower cost or free, because the cost of StreamYard is astronomical, and the return on the investment just isn't there because of the way YouTube is changing. That's just the reality. Hello, Demitu. Hope I'm saying that correctly. Watching from Ethiopia. That's amazing. Amazing. Thanks. Appreciate your viewership and for stopping by the live stream. Appreciate it very much. Krishna, hello. Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. Awesome. So those are some channel updates. New content will be coming. I can't tell you exactly when it will be. It's just when I have the time. Live streams may or may not continue past April or so. I got to figure out. So yeah, good question here. Razikata says, hi from Indiana. Hello. So you may not know I was in Bloomington for many years. One of my favorite place in the world. I love going to Bloomington. I hope I get back there soon. Ask, why do I use StreamYard? Is it not possible to live stream directly from YouTube? So it is not possible to stream directly from YouTube. You have to have some intermediary sort of service. So that has to be like StreamYard, OBS. What's the other one I can't think of? It's fairly common. Wirecast, I think, is still around. So you have to connect some piece of software that does software/website that does the streaming into YouTube, and then it distributes it out. So that's the way live streaming on YouTube works. There are free things like OBS. So OBS can do screen recordings. It can do live streaming and so on and so forth. The reason there are things like StreamYard because it has many additional features that make doing all of this infinitely easier. So using OBS, you have to set up a bunch of scenes. You have to do your own, like this lower third, Razikata, like this little bottom thing you see here. That's just a built-in feature of StreamYard, and it pulls that directly from YouTube using the API. It'll record up to 50 hours for you. It's a very good service. I'm not knocking StreamYard. StreamYard is a great service. It has an amazing set of features for it. But if you're just like me, like a single YouTuber who runs an educational channel and stuff like that, the return on that investment of the cost of it is just not there. It's great for other people. Might be great for businesses or somebody else that have, more revenue coming in for that. But for a single YouTuber like me that has an education channel where YouTube is decreasing in terms of how it recommends videos like mine and similar channels, the ad revenue is way down. So when that happens, people like me can't justify the cost of StreamYard, even though it's a great service. It's a really good service. So, and the trade-off is that if I were to use OBS, a lot of this stuff that StreamYard does automatically in terms of, point and click and all kinds of stuff, all the things like, let me share. So like sharing screens is a whole lot easier. So let me go back to here. I got to bring this up anyway, so I need to share my screen. But yeah, things like screen sharing and all that kind of stuff are just built in to StreamYard. Okay, it's like this. Like doing this in OBS would be a big pain in the ass because you have to you have to manually place everything where you sort of want it, and it's just a pain. So we'll see. I may change my mind, but I don't know the status of future live streams just because of the number of people they reach and the costs involved in both software and time. So we'll see. We shall see. But I'm glad you're here. I'm glad, and I'm glad several people stopped by to see the stream. And the original point of the stream, everybody, was just to make myself available to people. So it's one thing for someone to put videos up on their channel and they just kind of put it there and that's it, but you don't have any like personal connection to the creator. The main reason I started doing the live streams was to have a personal connection with you all, to make myself available to you all who wanted to stop by and say hello or drop in a question or start a conversation or whatever else. That's why I did it. And maybe that just has run its course, as all things in life do. All things in life run their course. And maybe this is just the live stream. It's running its course, and we'll see. So I don't know. I haven't fully decided yet, but I can't keep spending all the money to do this stuff. So all right. I try to say names correctly. So in UK, hope I'm saying something relatively close. Is it okay to ask stats? Yes, that's the point. Really, the main point of the live stream is to ask questions about stats or whatever else, and I'll try to answer them. If I can't off the top of my head answer it, I can follow up with you later. But yes, you can ask questions about stats or whatever else. And again, if I can answer it, I will. If I can't, I won't. And I can follow up with you later. So feel free to ask away or make a comment or throw something out into the chat you want to talk about that is on your mind. Okay? All right. So while we're waiting for any questions or comments, in the chat, as you probably saw, this has been the biggest week in AI since the release of GPT-4. It has been absolutely insane. What I've seen, I'm sure some of you have seen this week, with the release of Gemini 1.5, which is just, assuming it's all true, which since Google got burned last time for kind of faking things, I assume that they're releasing stuff that's actually true and capable now. If the capabilities of Gemini 1.5 are true, absolute just bonkers game changer in terms of, well, in many things. It's crazy. And I can go over some of that if you really want to know about more about it. Some of the highlights, I have the page up, I can show you if you want to know. And of course, OpenAI's Sora video creation model. Again, just incredible bonkers type quality and the length of the videos it can create. And I think that the hard thing about the AI space right now is if you're a startup that wants to create some sort of AI service, it's just a matter of time before OpenAI themselves or Google or Microsoft or anyone else just comes in and just destroys you because they create the service themselves in their own platform, you know? So it's not exactly the same, but, you know, will Mid-Journey continue when you have OpenAI's DALL-E and, you know, what was Google's? I can't remember the name of Google's actually, but they're it's able to fusion, of course. So there are several image generation platforms that are built into the bigger ones. But if you're an AI startup, it's really hard right now because the big companies will come in and just ruin your business. So could you maybe explain the one-factor model? What do you mean by one-factor model? You'll have to be a bit more specific. Do you mean like a one-way ANOVA? Or so if you're asking about a one-way ANOVA, yes, I can definitely tell you what that is. So let me know. Yeah, so I really encourage everyone to keep on top of, and I've been an evangelist about this. You have to stay up on top of the AI stuff, otherwise you just get blown away out of the water. So the old adage is AI may not replace your job, but people who do use it will. And I've seen that. I think that's true. So I've been trying to integrate all that into my day-to-day work, also in my personal, work. I pretty much learn it nonstop. I do my day job during the day, and then in the evenings, I'll watch videos on YouTube, or I'll do Udemy courses, or I'll do whatever on the weekends, of course, because I just have to keep going right now. It's exhausting. It is totally exhausting to have to keep up with all of it. But I feel like, me personally, I have to. I have to keep up with it all because it's just, it all changes so fast, naturally. And all these companies are in races with each other to get their latest models out or their latest feature sets out or whatever else. And it just accelerates the whole thing. And there's no real regulation around it, at least here in the US. So it's free reign. It can just go as fast as these AI services and models and stuff will grow at the speed of chip production. So as NVIDIA right here and other companies make more chips, these things will just keep going. Okay. So I really encourage everyone to stay on top of this stuff. Learn how to integrate it into your daily career or daily life or whatever. I'm not saying you have to be an expert on AI and stuff, but at least having an ongoing knowledge of what's in the news, what these things can do, and to learn a bit about how to use them to sort of amplify your own skills. Because I use the metaphor, it's not the best metaphor because it's destructive, but I see these AI tools as like putting your skills on steroids, right? So if you have some natural, muscle mass, you have some natural muscle mass, kind of like me. I'm a bigger guy. If you have that starting base, but then you inject yourself with anabolic steroids, you will get ginormous, right? So you already have the base knowledge there. It's just an enhancer in that case where you can just get, huge if you have the body mass and the build to do it to begin with. AI is sort of that too. If you already have a good base skill set, using the AI tools and software can be that sort of, that steroid or performance enhancing drug. I hate using this metaphor, but it's the best one I can think of. To supercharge your skills, right? So think of it that way, but you have to but it's not like an anabolic steroid. It's something that you can freely use and pay for or whatever. So anyway, yeah, that's the AI stuff. Some of the AI stuff, of course. So just in case you sort of haven't seen, these sorts of things, let's do this one. Yeah. So this is the Sora image generation model from OpenAI. I think the prompt for this is a flock of paper airplanes for stuff. And this is the prompt. A stylish woman walks down a Tokyo street filled with warm glowing neon, animated city signage. She wears a black leather jacket, a long dress, and black boots. And yes, that is AI created. You can see a little bit of weirdness in her boots, the way she walks. The physics aren't quite right there, but still, I mean, my goodness. That is just insane. All right, that is just insane. Historical footage of California during the gold rush. Again, this is AI created. This is not, that's not a drone. There were no drones back then. There was nothing flying back then, and that brings up a good point, everybody. So here in this, what we basically have is a drone shot of the 1840s in California. So think about that. This is an experience that no one ever saw or never existed or could have existed, because obviously there weren't flying things in the 1840s. However, by using AI, we can now imagine what that would look like or recreate what something like that would look like. I mean, it's bonkers. It is absolutely crazy, So I'm not going to go through this whole thing. I would encourage you to look at this if you haven't already. I'm sure many of you are up with this kind of stuff. But it really is it is really impressive. I mean, look at this. This is a fictional art gallery. Look how stable everything is. Look at the permanence of all the images on the walls and the floor. That's a complex pattern in that floor with the wood grain that has to remain consistent as it goes through. And that's completely generated. It really is. Now, this is one of the weird ones that you get some odd stuff. But anyway, so really check that out. The technical paper is actually very interesting too on these. So yeah, so definitely check that out so you know like what the new reality is with these sorts of things. Okay, now, I'll get to the Google thing here in a second. Let's see here. So I might have to get back to you on this because, well, first of all, I'm really impressed that a lot of the math showed here. So factor analysis, I haven't done a whole lot on factor analysis on the channel because it's used a bit more in marketing, marketing segmentation, product characteristics. You can use it on a lot of things, but I haven't really done that. But the basic gist of a factor analysis, and I'd have to go back and really refresh my memory, but take this with a little grain of salt here. But the basic gist of factor analysis is finding sets of variables among many variables that are correlated with each other, They tend to go in the same direction, and therefore they create sort of a meta measure that's a factor. Okay, and those variables can be grouped together into a factor, and then you might have other variables that do the opposite, and that might be a second factor. And the basic idea is for those factors, creating those factors in such a way that they explain away the most variance possible in the dependent variable. It's kind of all the same thing. But basically, it's a way of dimensionality reduction where you shrink the number of variables into smaller variables into factors that all tend to move sort of in the same way or have that relationship. They can go in different ways, but those group of variables tend to go in the same way. And the idea is to use those factors to shrink the number of variables and explain as much variation in the dependent variable as possible. So that's the gist of factor analysis, which is the same thing we do in many other things in statistics and machine learning and stuff. We're trying to explain away the variance in the dependent variable, trying to like gobble up sort of the sum of squares is the way I explain it. And factor analysis is just a way to group variables to do the same thing. Okay. And sometimes the way it works is like you'll have two factors and you have to rotate them a certain way to get the final, to get the most variation explained. But that's the basic gist. That's the basic sort of idea. And we see this like every day. There is, one of my favorite magazines is Consumer Reports because they do all the independent reviews of products and services and different, sorts of stuff. And they'll do a lot of this sort of work where they'll look at different products and look at common factors among all the products they review and stuff like that. That's one example. Market segmentation is another. So obviously in the company I work in and many other companies do market segmentation. So they might go out and look at all of their customers and try to find, you collect all the data about their customers and then reduce all that information into certain factors or personas. Personas are a common parlance in business. So that's another way you can apply factor analysis. It's very big in marketing for that reason. Okay. So I hope that explains a bit. I'm not going to get into the math notation because that's a bit more. I'd have to go look that up because this dropping math notation in the chat is not all that helpful to me. But that's the basic gist. Okay, a factor analysis. At least that I can do off the top of my head. Hello. Why Manikanta? Hello, good to see you. How can someone be good at maths, cannot be good at maths, become good at stats? So I think it depends on the level of stats you want to go into. But I will say that I think if you really want to have a basic understanding of statistics, like an intro level statistics background, I think all you really need is like algebra. You don't need anything more than algebra to do intro stats for two reasons. One, intro stats tends to stop at like linear regression or multiple regression, and those are just linear equations. You've seen those before in algebra. Okay, that's the main reason. You don't get into more complicated stuff in an intro level sort of stats class. Now, if you want to go higher in stats, you will have to have some, and this is where it's problematic, I think. You will have to have some experience working with matrices because a lot of multivariable statistics and machine learning and stuff, and AI for that matter, is all matrices. It's all working with matrices of numbers. So you have to have some understanding of matrix operations if you want to go a little bit higher, in statistics. That being said, though, nowadays it's good enough to kind of know what's going on without doing all the math. You're not doing the math by hand anymore. This isn't the 1960s. We're not doing math by hand anymore, or probably they were using computers by then, but 1930s, we're not doing math by hand. We have computers to do the math for us. But I think it's important to know enough of the math to know what it's doing, how to interpret what it provides back, how to read like an equation and know which variables have the most weight in that equation, or something like that. I think nowadays, unless you're doing like a PhD or master's in statistics or something, maybe then you have to know all the advanced math, but nowadays we have computers to do that for us. That's why we made them, to do this stuff for us. So I wouldn't worry too much, about the maths unless you want to go higher. But for intro stats, I say you just need to kind of know, algebra. And then if you go into machine learning and stuff, not only matrix operations, but then some calculus as well. Because things like gradient descent and other types of algorithms that have like loss functions and stuff where you're minimizing loss functions are calculus. And if you look at some of the other courses on machine learning, you'll see like partial differentiation and stuff like that. But again, it just depends on where you want to end up. So your level of math knowledge should sort of match where you want to go. And of course, you can always get better at math. So nowadays, there are many tools to get a little bit better at math if you feel like you need to. There are many online resources, of course. There are free books out there you can get. There are used books out there you can get. There are courses on Coursera, Udemy, edX, YouTube that you can do. You can just get better at math. Or you can get better at math through the learning of statistics. You can get better at math by doing the statistics and following the examples. Okay? So I don't think having a master's level knowledge of math is a prerequisite for being good at statistics at all. I don't. I think nowadays the actual solving of the problem that's done by computers is the minor thing. The really important thing in statistics now is identifying problems, formulating problems, knowing what questions to ask, matching the questions you're asking with a problem that you then need to use statistics or whatever else to solve, and then doing that process, and then more importantly, interpreting and communicating the results that you get back to others. That's the real juice. The statistics themselves are an increasingly minor part of that because of computers. And that's just sort of my view. Okay? But a good question. That's a very good question. All right. I'm not sure this will all fit. Oh, it does. Can you see me above it? See, this is why StreamYard is good, because it'll put all this in here. That's another benefit of it. Nima asks, I've recently decided to brush my knowledge on statistics, hypothesis testing, A/B testing, sampling, computational. Do you have any suggestion on where I can find real-world problems on those topics with answers so that I can try them? There are many resources on machine learning, but it seems there are not that many for statistics. I think one reason can be the fact it requires someone who has deep knowledge to really analyze the outcome and interpret them. Okay. Well, like I'm going to remove this because it's so large. Maybe I'll keep it. I'll just sit up taller. How about that? So, finding real world problems for statistics depends on sort of the type of statistics you want. For the topics you listed, like hypothesis testing and two sample testing and stuff like that, just any basic intro stats book will have tons and tons of problems in there that are based in the real world. Most, like, especially like a business statistics book. So like the book, obviously I work, if you don't know, I work for Cengage Group. So it used to be Cengage Learning. And I work on the product team that publishes this book, right? So this is our Stats for B&E, Stats for Business and Economics book. It's ginormous, okay? This is the 15th edition, but you can find an older edition used somewhere probably. all the problems are business and economics based. It's not like, oh, here's a math problem. No, it's like, something like, if I can find an example here. Yeah, so Delta Airlines quotes a flight time of 2 hours, 5 minutes for flights from Cincinnati to Tampa. Suppose we believe that actual flight times are uniformly distributed between 2 hours and 2 hours and 20 minutes. And then you're asked several problems about the uniform distribution based on the data they provided in the problem about Delta Airlines. So you can find a lot of like simple businessy type problems just in intro business stats books. Is a great place, and there's thousands of them in here. Thousands of them in here. If you wanted to do that way, okay. I'll put that away later because my bookshelf is a bit far away. So that's sort of the easiest thing, honestly. Just buy an old stats book that has some of the answers in the back and work them. Just work them. Okay. You can also try. I have a set of study cards upstairs that I think they're from Barron's. They're like AP statistics study cards that have like the problem on the front and then the explanation on the back. You can work through stuff like that. You can go out and collect your own data if you want. You can create your own problems if you want. And of course, there are many courses like on a Udemy or edX or Coursera or just YouTube for that matter, like mine. If you notice, almost all my videos try to have some sort of real world business example as the initial problem. So you can see the statistics in context. In context. But there's no substitute for just doing, working on problems. Just sitting down and working through the examples. And it's good to work through the examples if you have like a textbook, because the examples in the textbook are like a prototypical scenario or problem that can fit many different types of specifics. But you see that prototype in the chapter, kind of how it's worked step by step, and then you apply that general problem-solving technique to many other specific problems. That's why textbooks are really good. They're really good at that. I mean, that's their point, right? So just find you a good textbook like Stats for B&E that I held up. The author's CAMM. You can probably find the 13th, 14th, whatever editions floating around out there that you could maybe pick up. And by the way, that book I just held up is the market leader by far in the United States. So it's good. It's been around for a long time. Okay. Good question. Let's see. The math doesn't show in the LinkedIn live stream. Yeah, it's probably a little bit different. I don't control how that works, obviously. So the API for LinkedIn live may be different than the API for what is different than the API for YouTube in terms of showing some math symbols like this. It's not perfect, but it does show some of the Greeks in there. All right. So, good question. Awesome. Thanks. Yeah. Sometimes it's not all that complicated. Like in this case, if you want to do real world based stats problems, just find a business, statistics for business and economics book, and it has thousands of them, literally thousands. All right. And usually with explanations, examples, and all the other pedagogy that comes with just having a good book on the shelf. I know we shy away from books now, but over to my right, I have 3 bookshelves of the most important books, and I still keep physical copies of books because I use them all the time as reference. They're my reference books. Now it helps that I work for a company that makes books. That's why I have probably more than most people. But yeah, I keep them over there. Some of them I don't probably need all that much, but I still keep them, because they're harder to find. So just pick up a good business for stats for business economics book is my recommendation there. Sometimes it isn't any more complicated than just finding a good old book. All right. Yeah, keep questions coming, thoughts, questions, comments, put them in the chat. We'll get to those. I'm going to bring this up while I wait for a few more thoughts, comments, and questions in the chat. Give you some time to populate that. The other thing I'm going to show you, if you haven't seen it already, is Google's Gemini 1.5. It is absolutely insane. It's hard to get me shook, like just like deer in headlights, like watching stuff and get shook by stuff. I'm pretty hard to impress, honestly. Thursday was one of those days I was shook. Between Sora and Gemini 1.5, I was shook. So, how did this change things? I think that's what everyone should understand of how this new model by Google changed things, because we're used to ChatGPT at this point. You might have messed around with Google, it was Bard, but now it's Gemini. What's the big deal, and why are people crapping their pants over what this sort of thing can do? One of the first things is what's called its context window. So if you use ChatGPT, you have that box you can type in and paste stuff in, or if you're using the API, you can do it that way. It's basically how much stuff you can give the Gen AI model to work on at one time. That's the context window. And usually that includes what you give it and its response back. That's the whole context window. And it deals with tokens. So a token is a part of a word. So like the word stopping is probably 2 tokens, stop and ing. That's what a token is. So you can think of it as one word is about 0.7 or 0.75. No, one token is about 0.75 words. 0.7 words, okay? What this can do, this model can handle 1 million tokens. 1 million. So as of right now, I think GPT-4 is 128,000, I think. This is 1 million. Another way to think about that is that you can put into a prompt or a context window almost the entire Harry Potter series of books at once. All of them. That's about 700,000 words. So 1 million tokens is about 700,000 words. And it can work on that much context in one time, which is bat bleep crazy. Okay, it's really hard, or was really hard, for LLMs to do something like that. So it's the amount of information it can process. And of course, it's not just text, because Gemini is fully multimodal, meaning it can handle text, it can handle images, it can handle video, it can handle audio, or any combination thereof. So you can feed it like an entire video, and it can turn that into tokens that it can understand and do all kinds of crazy stuff in there. It is absolutely bonkers. And so for example, let's see, this is a 44-minute video right here. It's a 44-minute video. I forgot the frame rate, but anyway. So this 44-minute video, when turned into tokens, is about 700,000 tokens, okay? Now what they did here, I'm not going to play the video or anything because you can go watch it. I'll put the link to this in the chat. What they did was they hand drew like something from one of the scenes. In this case, it's a water tower. It's a water tower with some water coming out of it. They drew it by hand. They gave it the image they drew by hand and said, go find the place in the video where this thing I drew by hand is. And it does it almost perfectly. So, but that's crazy. A 44-minute video, it can find something similar to a hand-drawn image that you provide it and be perfect every time. It's just crazy. This is a long block of code, 3JS. So it was, over 800,000 tokens. And they asked it to find the place in the code that creates this thing. And it did it. Okay. The other thing that is really amazing is trying to find it here, needle in a haystack. If I can find the graph here. Maybe it's not in this post. Okay, it's not in this original post. It's what's called needle in a haystack. So you can give it this huge, massive context window and ask it a very specific detail in that huge context window, and it can find it. And the way they tested that was they would go into this long context window of text, like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of words, and they would put some sort of secret thing in there, like a sentence, like the secret word is banana. They would just drop that into this huge context window of text, like the secret word is banana. Then they would ingest all of that, and then they ask it, what is the secret word and what page is it on? It will reply, the secret word is banana, and it's on page 817. It can find that. In all that text, it can find that. Which is crazy. So and it does it fast. It's very fast. It's very efficient. So the things that this can do, it's not public yet, but the things that this stuff can do now is absolutely just incredible. It's incredible. And again, I'm not saying that you have to be an AI expert, but it's good to stay on top of what these developments are, because if you're not already, you will be impacted by it in some way. Either through, if you're a student, you'll be impacted by it. If you are you work in a career, you'll be impacted by it. There's no escape. There's no escape from it. So the only way to deal with it is to understand it by keeping on top of the news, keeping on top of what is happening and what's going on, and hopefully learning how to ultimately use it to give you your own superpowers. Because that's what this can do. This stuff over the past year has given me superpowers that before it existed, I wouldn't have. I can do shit now that I couldn't even imagine doing like a year and a half ago because I didn't have the skills or the knowledge. Now I do. So stay on top of this stuff for your own survival in terms of career or whatever else, because it's extremely important. Last thing I want to maybe show you is you might want to try it out. It's also from Google. Let me pull it up here. There we go. If you haven't seen this, this is related. This is Notebook LM. Right now, it's an experimental tool created by Google, and it is like an AI-powered note-taking platform. Okay, so it looks kind of like this. It kind of looks like a GPT interface because it actually is kind of based on it. But the way this works is you can upload. Let's do test. But what you can do with this is you can upload source documents. Okay. So if you've taken your own notes or have notes from somewhere, you can actually connect it to certain services. You can connect it. There are ways to connect it to like Kindle and other type of services that'll pull the highlighted things that you've done. But you can add sources from your Google Drive via a PDF or just via some sort of copied text. You can add up to 20 source documents. Okay. So let's see. Let me add something real fast. I'm gonna add a PDF So you can kind of see this. Okay. So I'm going to bring this back. I'm not sure how long this will take. So what I've done is add an intro to statistics PDF. This is just an OpenStax PDF, so it is open. I can add this in here as some sort of source of text. I could also have added an entire drive full of documents. Okay. So I should have tested this out. I'm not sure how long this will take. But the way this works, everybody, is that in this sort of AI powered note taking system, you can add the sort of source documents that you have or whatever else it might be. And then you can combine your notes with the AI system to have it like interact with you and explain things to you that you know, whatever it is you sort of need to know, right? And we've seen this in the past where you can talk with certain documents, but because of the way this is, let me I can't type in here yet because it's still processing. I probably should have done this first. But this is called Notebook LM, and you should definitely try it out and kind of see how it works. There are many demos on YouTube. Let me find the one. I'll let this process, but I'm going to find the YouTube video that was very good at explaining this. I'll put this in the chat. Let me find it. There it is. So this is the video.
Most of what we consider note-taking and
from Tiago Forte. That's a bad place to pause. That's better. So this is the video I recommend watching. I'll put this in the chat that explains how you can use Notebook LM to organize your course notes, to analyze your business notes at work, or whatever else. Obviously, I would not put anything in there that is proprietary or sensitive. Don't put like your company's financial statements in there or whatever else. But again, this is just another example of how we're finding tools. How's this doing? It's still processing. We are finding tools that will interface with the LLMs as like another layer to give us more superpowers. Now, the Notebook LM is an experimental tool. So it might have, little bugs, kind of weird stuff, here and there. Yeah, I think my PDF is taking a bit too long. So I won't mess with that. I'll check back maybe one more time. But the Notebook LM by Google is sort of that tool that you can use with your own information with and Google's Gemini to keep track or learn or whatever it is you're doing, right? So just another example that I encourage y'all maybe to check out, give it a whirl, since we're all here in the education space. It's pretty crazy. I mean, that'll probably keep going. So what is this? Yeah, so here you can see what this is. This is one of their example ones. So once you upload a source like this, okay, you upload this. So this is the text that was uploaded. This is a good example. So in this demo, they uploaded this text here. It's a big chunk of text, okay? Look at that. Now, what happened, as soon as that text is added as a source, Notebook LM then gives you this summary right here, does it automatically, and then gives you key topics. And obviously those are links, okay? If you click on the key topic, it's going to look through here and actually find where in that text block, in this case, incandescent lighting is mentioned, and then give you like a summarized version, like an expanded summary version with all the citations. You can click right here, look at it. You click on one, it shows you on the left-hand side where it got that information. Click on number 4, it shows you at the bottom where it got that information. See? Bonkers. Okay? Crazy. And then you can ask it a question. And I think they preload 3 questions. What are the key factors that contribute to the success and widespread adoption of incandescent light bulbs? Built by Thomas Edison. And a second question. So you can ask it a question. Oh, I need to close this. Let's go over to here. Okay. And then you can save your notes. You can see this is a study guide that was created, different the challenges that were part of the process of doing light bulbs. You can create all these little notes with the citations to your stuff. It is crazy. Okay. Okay, that was a pre-done question. Let's see. Cost of incandescent. I'm not going to write spelling. Lighting. Let's see what it says. Cost of incandescent lighting. Of course, I can't spell incandescent. Copy paste. Let's see what it says. So you can see it down here working. So it's all right. So it says incandescent lighting bulbs have very high manufacturing costs. See? And then it looked over there. Here again, here are the 10 citations that it found. And then I can copy this. I could pin it or whatever else I want to do. It is just crazy. Okay. So again, this is another example of that. Let's see if this is done. Oh, I think it timed out. Okay. I think the PDF was probably too big that I uploaded on the fly. So anyway, Notebook LM, something I highly suggest checking out, giving it a whirl. You can look at the video I put in the chat about it. It's just one example of how generative AI is being used as a base for other useful tools and platforms, especially for us in education, where we can keep track and interact with our own learning, our own notes, our own resources, and so on and so forth. Okay? It's not the only one. You know, there are many others. So Notebook LM, I'll put that in the chat as well. There you go. So give that check that out. Yeah, just play around with this stuff. All right? Just play around with it. All right, last call for any comments or questions in the chat, and I'm going to go up to the coffee shop and do some work. So if you have any other thoughts or questions or comments on this, anything else I've said in the stream, anything I've not said in the stream, now is the time to ask. I'll wait like another minute or two and see what you all say, and if not, we'll wrap up this live stream. So I'm gonna take a drink of water while I wait for anything you might want to add in the chat. Okay. Just a reminder, we go back here. Yep, just a reminder that the channel is always here. The new videos will always be under the video section here. So check those out. The new ones will look like this, kind of like they have like a superhero theme, so you can always check those out. That's how you'll know that they are there. And I look forward to showing you some more things about Orange and stuff like that. But again, it's just I do it when I have the time. And unfortunately, you know, I have to do things in a priority order with what pays the bills. And right now that's not YouTube for many people. So, you know, YouTube has just changed, you know, for better or worse. It's changed. All right, so nice info. Thanks. You are very welcome. I'm very passionate about this stuff because I think I have to be. You have to be passionate about this stuff nowadays, or you're just gonna fall behind, further behind. And you know, I'm not saying you have to be an AI accelerationist. I'm just saying you have to be up to date on it. You have to know what's going on to be part of the conversation, and then hopefully learn as much as you can about it as it relates to how it can be useful to you. You know, and bring new ideas to your company. If you work at a company, you know, bring some new ideas to them as you learn. I've been doing that for the past year, you know. So, oh, I have this idea. Oh, I have this idea. And it may go nowhere, but at least you're the one proposing ideas, right? Okay, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the stream. And I think we'll be back in 2 weeks. So March 2nd. But I must always post the live stream the Wednesday before the Saturday. So, like, this live stream was posted Wednesday. So you can always look out, like on Wednesdays usually, for the live stream announcement to go out. That way you can plan ahead if you wanna join. So we should be here on March 2nd, unless anything comes up. I don't think anything's gonna come up, but you never know. So kind of around March 2nd, 2 weeks from now, kind of look if you want to be part of that live stream, and I'm sure we'll have more to talk about then. So bring your comments, bring your questions, bring your thoughts, because that's what makes the live stream enjoyable and beneficial for everyone. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. And I thank you all for some of your valuable time, and I hope you have a very good rest of your day. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.